check. No one's here yet. This is a pre-credit scene. A pre-stream scene. Yeah. How's that? Every time. Every time. I was saying this is my first cup of coffee, and you guys don't usually see me until my second. But I said I would start at 9, so it's... Well, yeah. My watch still has a 9 on the front of it, so I guess that's better than usual. Punctuality, not my forte. So, I need to figure out what I'm going to do today, writing-wise. I got a laundry list of other things waiting for me after, but the whole point of this stream for me was to set aside an hour or 3 every day where all I'm doing is writing stuff. I'm cleaning off the my windows here. I still got... Yeah. It was another late night last night, and I think I got to bed around 3:30. And 9 o'clock rolls around pretty early when you get to bed at 3:30. Had some voice work that... Well, I don't know for a fact that my client was expecting it before I had given it to them, but yeah, they had... I know you don't. That's what you signed up for, and I never actually deliver that, but I will be. I've got my new smaller... Oh, sorry. Did I bonk the microphone there? My new smaller keyboard. I've done the same color scheme as the last one, but this one is a 10 keyless, no number pad on the end. And I have to say, it's also got, well, it's a dream to type on, basically. I'm really enjoying this thing. I put in some Halo True switches, which are very springy on the bottom end, so they've got a normal, a fairly heavy, a medium to heavy activation weight. So they're a fairly stiff key. But then once you get past the activation point where the switch triggers, the spring really kicks in, so it gets a bit boingy. Hey, Silent Author, you're blue now in the chat. Huh. I wonder why that is. How goes? I was just showing off my new keyboard. It's really, really nice to type on. And it turns out that part of the reason I was having such a hard time with typos and things like that and getting words out is because the keyboard was too far to the left and I had to be over here to be in shot, and my trackball was too far over. It was just really kind of awkwardly positioned. And now that number pad's not there, I can move the keyboard over more centered on where I am. No problems. I'm typing, I don't know, probably 15 or 20 words a minute, which for me is pretty good. Been watching a bunch of custom keyboard videos on YouTube, and they always do a typing test or a sound test or whatever after they've modded their keyboards, and they're all typing like 80 words a minute, 90 words a minute, just blah, 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 blah. Oh, so what do I need to do? I need to figure out this section. Okay. Was Demir Sukhvinder Kumar? What happens if I copy that? Hey, there we go. Oh yeah, the other interesting thing with these switches is they're not clicky like my last keyboard with the cherry blues. Never again with those. I don't know how well it shows up on the microphone. I've got noise reduction turned on, so it may be filtering out a lot of the keystrokes, but it's much, much quieter. I'm actually thinking about modding my keyboard to make it as quiet as possible. I tried a few things. I have this little bag of, I don't know if you can see them, little O-rings, little rubber O-rings that you put on the stem of the keycap so that when it hits the bottom, it just boings, it's softer instead of clacking. But I did not like what it did to the feel of the keys. It took away all of the little, the springiness of the springs on the keys because they're not going down far enough. So I took them off again. Time well wasted. All right. I did say that I was going to plan this out on paper off stream, and then I didn't do that. I got busy with a bunch of other stuff. I'm not mad, though. Well, I'm not if you're not. I got an awful lot of stuff done yesterday. Just not much of it on... Well, actually, that's not true. I did get quite a bit of stuff done on this story. Silent author, you're looking for another science fiction and fantasy writer? I'm one. Female writer is one. Fat JMO in the Discord, he writes sci-fi. I don't know if he does fantasy so much, but definitely sci-fi. He and I were collaborating with a group of other people under the banner of Star Scribes back, God, 7 or 8 years ago, 10 years ago. I don't know. It was a long time ago anyway. We were attempting to write space opera, I was call it space opera fantasy, but space opera sci-fi. Hey, Tudor! We were attempting to write space opera stuff in a shared world kind of environment. Like we built this world and this spaceship and a crew, and each came up with characters, and we were going to write shared world anthology kind of stuff in there. It never really turned into anything, unfortunately. Different levels of commitment and interest. So, but I'm still in touch with, once in a while in touch with most of the people that were involved in that. So anyway, yeah, Fat JMO is a sci-fi writer. I'm trying to think who else writes sci-fi or fantasy. I think Nini writes, she was saying she writes urban fantasy or magic realism or something along those lines, I believe. Silent author, why are you looking for another science fiction and fantasy writer? Looking to collaborate on something, or? So, it's not much help. I wrote a plot synopsis of the 3 novellas that will make up this novel-length piece of fiction. Two minds are better than one, and of course the perverse swamp that is my mind immediately comes up with, not if they're in the same head. No offense to anyone with multiple personality disorder, but generally most people would probably agree that having one of those personalities is better than having multiple personalities in terms of being able to function and handle life. I'm sure Ed Norton and Brad Pitt would agree, or maybe they wouldn't, I don't know. Yeah, I wrote a plot synopsis yesterday. It's not helping me with plotting this thing out. So... Shameful admission time. I actually thought about popping back to Frank and writing more of Frank's stuff because I'm at the moment more comfortable with Frank than I am with this story. All right. So, why don't I just do this? I was asked to write a project proposal and sort of overview of this work for the university thing that I'm doing. I'm working with a professor of creative writing on this. Basically, I'm paying a lot of money to get professional feedback and university credit. I have to add to that. So, that's basically paying for the university credit. But what I'm actually in it for is the feedback. So I was asked to write a proposal and overview of this thing. Let me see. Here, I'll just read it as I wrote it. That'll probably be the best. It's about a page long. The finished piece will be novel length, likely between 60,000 and 80,000 words, though I conceived of it and continue to think of it as a set of 3 interconnected novellas. I find the mental separation between the 3 narratives to be important, as I want each section to stand on its own as a complete story. Technically, I suppose it would be classified as science fiction, though only because it has a scientific advancement as part of its core premise, and because I'm not sure what else I'd call it. Contemporary fiction or literary fiction, I suppose. And I should add, I wasn't intending to write a literary fiction-y kind of book, but once I started digging into the characters and what I expect to be happening here, once I started doing the plot synopsis, I realized that it is literary fiction in a way. Like there's not much that's going to be happening. It's not plot driven at all. And it's a deep dive into character and humanity and a bunch of other themes and things. And the focus is probably going to be very firmly on the style and the writing, which, if you're using a lot of words to have nothing happen, literary fiction, yay. So, all right. All 3 stories will be set in the same, probably unnamed North American city. I have a habit of not naming my cities. The premise is that scientists have finally solved the puzzle of aging, resulting in an effectively infinite human lifespan, barring accidental death or one of the few diseases that have still not been cured. This will be based as far as possible on an extrapolation of the current state of research into this issue. So like the Methuselah Foundation and Aubrey de Grey and all those guys who are working on treating aging as a disease and looking to cure it like they would any other disease. And I'm going to have to brush up on my research there because I was fairly up to date on the state of the art there, but it's been a few years and I haven't been following. So, for the plot synopsis, the first novella will tell the story of the lead scientist on the research project that made the breakthrough. He will wrestle with the implications of the discovery and with the decision of whether or not to release the findings publicly, which he believes to be the right thing to do, or keep it a secret in accordance with the demands of the powerful people who funded the research. Implicit in his moral dilemma is the assumption that everyone desires eternal life. The other stories will highlight this as false and show that he is completely missing the real, or at least the deeper, issue. So he's wrestling with the issue of whether or not to publicly release the information that, or the research and the data and everything else, which he thinks he should do. But of course he works for a major pharmaceutical and biomedical research branch of a huge conglomerate company, and they do not want the secret of eternal life and health released. They make too much money on everything else, I guess. So that's the issue he's wrestling with, but completely overlooking the idea of whether or not someone would want to live forever, as the Queen song asks. When love must die, right? Which comes in a bit. The second novella will focus on a university student from a very devout Christian background. That would be Demir. He is studying biochemistry and has been interning at the lab where the breakthrough was developed. After the public announcement of the findings and release of the data, which the scientist guy, Emil. Anyway, he releases the data eventually and makes it public. And after the release of the data, he was pressured into leaving his internship and is currently being pressured into changing his area of study by his parents and the rest of his church community, his faith community. They are of the mind that biochemical research is evil and against God's will. He struggles with his community's denunciation as evil of something that his internal moral sense tells him is a good thing. He feels that aging and infirmity are an evil, and if we can reduce or eliminate the suffering of all of humanity, then we are obligated to do so. He is convinced by his fiancée to go to a protest outside of the lab where he once interned. At the protest, someone drives a van through the crowd and into the gate of the facility before setting off an explosive device, killing himself and many others, including the fiancée. The student is seriously injured. Yeah, this is sort of what I'm trying to explore in this book, actually, Silent Author, is what kinds of people would embrace the idea of eternal life and which kinds of people wouldn't. That's interesting too. To live many lifetimes, but not one life forever. See, and from my perspective, I've reinvented myself several times already in the not quite 50 years I've been on the planet. I mean, at 30 years old, I sold everything I owned, packed up, and moved to China. So I'm proof positive that you can live many lifetimes without ever dying. Or at least a couple so far. And I plan to reinvent myself as often as I feel I want to. But yeah, no, I'm exploring the ideas of which kinds of people, what kinds of personalities, what elements of society would embrace versus reject an indefinite lifespan. So the third novella, and this is sort of where everything pays off, or where it all kind of comes together, I guess. And as I said in the project overview, I want each of these three stories to stand on their own and be satisfying as a story, if that makes sense, by themselves. But, well, I'll get to that, I guess. So the third novella will deal with a man who works as a manual laborer in the construction industry. He is in his late middle age and recently lost his wife to cancer. He doesn't exactly hate his job, but he only works to pay his bills and gets no enjoyment from it at all. He finished high school, but barely, and has no interest in anything intellectual or creative. His daily schedule is much the same: up at dawn, work all day, home to a microwave dinner and a few beers while watching television until bed. On weekends he either stays home and watches more television, or he goes fishing. He has few friends and no close friends at all, and he feels the loss of his wife deeply. He believes that the scientific breakthrough that everyone is talking about would have saved his wife's life had it come along a year or two sooner. And this makes him horribly sad and horribly angry. Also, the thought of living forever with no end to his unfulfilling life is dreadful. If his wife were still alive, perhaps it would be tolerable, but alone, spending the rest of eternity hauling materials around a building site and watching garbage on TV? He steals a van from work and a bunch of demolition explosives and drives off to the lab, which he has come to blame for all of his problems. So all of the characters interact indirectly with each other. The student doesn't actually work directly with the head scientist. He's cleaning beakers and doing grunt work in the lab, probably not even working on the same stuff. But he's connected to the lab in some way, and he feels connected to the lab and all of that. And this man who goes and blows himself up, kills a bunch of people, he has an impact on both of the other characters as well, though never meets them and has nothing, is not involved with them directly. So those are the three novellas, the sort of the plot of the three novellas, such as I have it so far, subject to change and all that stuff, yada yada. Goals for the book, the novel. The collective goal of the three parts is to explore the effects on different elements of society of removing one of the fundamental constraints of human experience, death due to aging. The topic is timely as we are on the cusp of making just such a breakthrough. Significant increases in the human lifespan are probable within the next 50 to 100 years. At least as far as I know, given what I've read previously. For some people, an indefinite lifespan would be the most wonderful of blessings. These are generally people who are passionate about their work, who enjoy their life and seek out new experience. For other people, I suspect the majority in fact, the prospect is far less positive. For this project to be successful, I will have to develop and depict these three characters in a realistic, fully fleshed out and sympathetic way. I want the reader to identify with each of these people in turn and to empathize with them fully, even the third person, right? The guy who blows himself up. Each of the three pieces will also need to stand on its own as a complete and satisfying story that is made deeper and more resonant in context with the other two. So, yeah, that's what I'm working on. That's the project. That's the story, such as it is. And it's in the very, very early stages of everything right now. Yeah. I mean, I'll be brutally honest here. I'm a lot more interested in Frank right now than I am in this. But when other people are involved in the process, you got to do what you got to do. And I'm not uninterested in this. It's just this is going to be a bit more of a challenge from the writing side, because it's going to be a style of writing that I'm not really accustomed to. I mostly write speculative fiction, and speculative fiction deals a lot with big ideas and plot, really. I mean, character is important, but plot is really fundamental to most spec fic. I mean, I would say so anyway. You don't have a lot of deep introspective character work going on in a science fiction story generally. I mean, in some of the better science fiction you do, but it's subtle and it's underlying the events of the story, right? When you talk about like an Isaac Asimov or a Arthur C. Clarke or Philip Jose Farmer or Greg Bear or Tad Williams or even Tolkien, Robert Jordan, if you talk about any of those big names in speculative fiction, Stephen King, you're talking about what happens in the story. But if you're talking about something like 100 Years of Solitude, or Life of Pi, or any of those what you would call literary fiction kind of writers, you don't really talk about the plot as much. You talk more about the character, who they are, how they develop, how they change, what their problems or issues are. And that for me is going to be a bit of a challenge. I also have to spend more time crafting my words, I think, in the end, rather than just telling the story as effectively well, as maybe not efficiently, but as clearly as possible, and letting the ideas and the events speak for themselves, more or less. Yes, Frank is a detective with magic. Woo-choo! I don't know if he has any magic exactly. We'll get to that later in a month or two. I'm pretty sure he doesn't have a magic wand with stars, but I do like the emoji. Yeah, I was the interest. I was thinking about this yesterday as well. I can write them and then rearrange them later because they don't. Well, I mean, yeah, I came to the conclusion that I would have to have scientist friend first because I need to establish the premise. I need to establish the setting in that sense. The reader needs to know about this discovery before the other two stories will make a lot of sense. Chronologically, the scientist comes first, and then I could go either. I can't remember their names. They're still new to me. Marcus. I could go Marcus and then Demir, or I could go Demir then Marcus. Emil. I think in Dutch it would be Emil, not Emil, but Emil van Dyke. And Demir is the student. Marcus is the manual laborer. At the moment I'm leaning towards putting him last because he's sort of the payoff for the whole thing. He really puts he's the exclamation point at the end of the trio. I was going to say the cherry on top of the sundae, but that's just way too cheerful an analogy for this story. The other thing is that having had the suicide bomber happen already, if I go Demir second, then as one is reading Marcus's story, that the sense of inevitability. I mean, the reader should clue in early or earlier. I'm going to be foreshadowing fairly heavy. It'll be a twist, but not a surprise twist that he's the one who blows himself up at the protest. I kind of want that sense of inevitability, that sense of like impending doom, that sort of fatalist, if you'll excuse the unintentional pun there, that fatalism, inevitability, that kind of a feeling towards the last third of the collection. I mean, even by the time someone finishes the second story, and as they're starting the third one, they should be thinking, oh, I wonder if this is the guy who did the thing. And then that's sort of confirmed piece by piece, gradually confirmed throughout the story. More and more certain, that kind of a thing. That's the feel I was going for. If I put Marcus first, if I put Marcus first, then everything else is denouement. It's just sort of like the epilogue. I mean, this is the way I have it in my head anyway. The focus is kind of more on Marcus than it is on the other two when you look at them as a whole. So that's why for me the challenge is going to be to make either of the first two as wholly interesting and fleshed out as the third. So, Emil van Dyke. When you write Van Dyke in cursive, spelled the way I've spelled it with the IJ, it kind of looks like a little smiley face in the middle of the name. Try it yourself at home. The coffee's kicking in. I'm starting to wake up a bit. And the chatting is helping. All right, so what are my scenes here? What are my plot points? What are my... If I was... Oh, you know what I should do? Let me see if I have one lying around. Yes, I do. Cool. I have these sheets that I printed out. I'm a big fan of Larry Brooks's story engineering. I find it a useful tool to pin the pieces of a story that are generally, I don't want to say required, because as we all know, there are no rules and blah, 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 and everything else. But stories do follow a certain expected form. And, yeah. Anyway, Larry Brooks has these sheets. I don't know if showing up very well or not, but they sort of allow you to plug in the main pieces and then the supporting other pieces. But you know, what's the hook? It's sort of a 4-act structure rather than the traditional 3-act structure. You've got the setup, the response, the attack, and the resolution. I find it marvelously useful in terms of focusing in on what the story actually is and not getting sidetracked by a bunch of faffle that isn't as important, if you know what I mean. It's really easy in my experience, if you just sit down and start writing, to end up writing 2 or 3 or 4 different stories all mashed together with no narrative focus. And that's a danger I don't want to deal with in this. So, what is Emil's motivation? What is his big thing? To release or not to release? That's his... He wants to release. Yes, I don't want to say he wants to release. Hey, Zedcore, how's it going? I missed your comments 2 days ago. I think you'd wandered off by the time I saw them and responded, but my apologies for that. I was on another window. Public. I'm going to say go public, because go public sounds a little less creepy than he wants to release. It's like the word moist for some people. For some reason, that just rubs me the wrong way today. Oh, Zedcore. Yeah, I did play around with using rolling briefly. Marcus rolling, I think it was. But I decided at the end it didn't flow the way I wanted it to. Didn't stick, so I changed it to a Waterman. So my character names at the moment are Emil van Dyke, Demir Sukhvinder Kumar, and Marcus Waterman. Marcus Cornelio Waterman. I'm not going to use their middle names, but I think I'm going to actually... I don't like that Cornelio anyway. I am Cornelio. I need TP for my bunghole. Something like that. Reminds me of that. I don't think we really need... I really like Sukhvinder, though, but I think we'll get rid of their middle names. And actually, if he is Christian... Well, no, unless he's Roman Catholic, I guess it doesn't matter, and he's not Roman Catholic. I was going to say the middle name would probably be John or Paul or, you know, a biblical middle name. You know, I like it, Sukhvinder. I can't say it without that little hint of an accent, though. Sukhvinder. But, I mean, it's spelled with a W, but I think it's pronounced Sukhvinder. Sorry about that loud bang. That was my clipboard hitting the desk. Okay. Antagonist. I don't want to come up with an entire corporate structure here. I don't think that's necessary, but I should have one or two people that are above and adjacent to him in that structure. Okay. I guess, you know what I'll do? Today I'm going to do... yeah. Okay, yeah. Today I'm going to do character development and notes and things. And we'll see how that goes. Maybe I'll throw some words down in terms of prose, but today I'm going to get, well, Emil anyway, outlined and done. Yeah, I'm going to work on these in turn. I don't need to really develop the other two characters until I get to their stories, I guess. Corporate, okay. I'm showing 5 viewers. Oh, hi, Mum. My mum's in the chat. Say hi to everybody. That's weird, though. I'm showing 5 viewers. Well, I guess it's not weird. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 viewers in chat. Action Shin. Are you a bot? Thanks, Silent Author, saying hi to my mum. Huh. I can't tell if Action Shin is a bot or not. Kind of looks like a blot. A blot on the face of the... Now with Shin action, huh? No schedule. I'm gonna look it up. Yep. Bot. I'm getting better at spotting them. So, Mom, you signed up for Twitch just to hop in the chat, huh? That's my mom. I have a supportive mom. Oh, I have an empty belly, too. I should really start eating breakfast or something. All right. So... Well, you can... I mean, sure. You can call too, you know. You can watch the stream without signing up, though, so hopefully you'll be nice and active in the chat. Or as active as you want to be, I guess. Sorry, I need to clean up my office and my desk too. This caught my eye. This is something called a lube station. This is for taking these little babies apart. This is a keyboard switch for a mechanical keyboard. And you use this thing to open them up and take the parts out. And then you use this stuff and this little teeny weeny paintbrush to grease them up and then put them back together and put them back in your keyboard. I've been getting quite into this mechanical keyboard thing to a point. Okay, bye, Mom. I've been getting into it to a point, not as far as a lot of people do. I mean, I don't really care about sound as much as a lot of enthusiasts do, as long as it's fairly quiet and feels good when I type. I am very interested in the typing feel. But I went and ordered a bunch of equipment for which to play around with keyboards and switches and find the perfect keyboard for me. And then, so now I'm gonna actually put together an online Skillshare course about mechanical keyboards and sort of introduction to the area of mechanical keyboards and customizing them. Because by doing so, I make it all tax deductible. If I've used the stuff to put together a course, which I'm then selling on Skillshare, tax deductible, hooray! See, my mama didn't raise no dummies. Well, not this one anyway. All right, so set up. I should probably show him making the breakthrough. Although my initial instinct is actually to start later than that. Start with him getting stonewalled by corporate. All right. Now, anyone who's doing research for a corporate entity, a major corporate entity in particular, would need to submit their papers for approval before submitting them for publication, I believe. Okay, now that'll work. So, and then he'll have his request for publication denied. Yeah, that's where I sort of, that was the first scene that came into my head when I was thinking about how to start the story, was have him in a meeting with a bunch of suits, all of them looking unamused and talking circles around the idea that they're never going to let him publish this research. They are going to quash this research and keep it very, very, very quiet. But I don't think that's where I want to start the story. I think that's going to be my first plot point. Or part of his response to the first plot point. So the first plot point is the first sort of parting of the veil, the first time the first time that the protagonist sort of realizes what's actually going on. They're walking through their life all, unaware and innocent, and then bam, life hits them in the head. Yeah, I'm gonna have him. I think his primary relationship will be with his wife. Or husband. Should I make him gay? I don't know. What purpose would that serve exactly? Representation is good. What I should do is use a random number generator. What's the general estimate is like what 10 to 15% of the population is homosexual versus 85 to 90 hetero. I gotta roll the dice and decide whether he's straight or gay. Just like nature does. Actually, I kind of like that idea. We're randomly assigning a sexual orientation to the main character of a story that I'm taking very seriously. Okay. Oh, I figured there must be some such thing. 1D100. Roll one time. Okay, so let's. Should we say from 1 to 15%? Up to 15% is gay, and above that is hetero, or above 85%? We'll say 1 to 15 is gay. 94. He's very straight. Okay. Well, that answers that question, I guess. Back we go to here. I think what I am going to do, that's actually a very good idea, female writer. Thank you. I am going to have some of the setup section be his wife gently hinting that maybe his bosses aren't going to want him to publish, that he might encounter more resistance to this than he expects. And he'll be somewhat in denial, blinders on about that. In his mind, how could anyone not make this kind of a breakthrough public? How can anyone not make this kind of a development, this kind of technology or scientific knowledge public? It's by rights the property of all of humanity, not just one company. But that, of course, is not how unfettered American-style capitalism works, is it? I have views there, which we're not going to get into today, but very strong views. Okay, so I should probably be trying to plan on screen, but you know, make for a more interesting video, I suppose. But yeah, so his wife, I'm gonna have to invent a wife now too, but all right, so part 2 is the response. How is he going to respond to this? Well, he's a scientist working in a major corporation. He's going to appeal the rejection. He's going to follow the process. Okay. Because he believes in the process. He believes in the organization and the structure and the rules. He's a scientific mind. There's a process. There's steps you follow, and that gets you to the result. One way or the other, it gets you to a result. So the rejection, the denial for the denial of the request for publication will probably be on spurious grounds. I like that word. Something to do with problems with the methodology as described, or concerns about proprietary technology. Things like that. Hey, silent author. We can't really tell when you leave. I don't know when you left. So I'm not sure what you missed because I don't know when you went. I'm plotting out my first novella using Larry Brooks's story engineering structure, sort of a 4-act structure. Are you Batman? Are you this Batman? Or are you a different Batman? Are you Michael Keaton Batman? Are you Val Kilmer Batman? Are you Adam West Batman? Are you going to do the Batusi? I am a child of my era. And I'm still very much a child, yes. Just ask my wife. That's the right Batman. That is exactly the right Batman. If you like, if you need a Burt Ward, I'm available. Holy live stream, Batman. There was a movie, like a feature film reboot of that original, like the 1970s, or was it even 60s, 70s, the Adam West Batman. There, I don't remember when it happened. I'll look it up later, but it was horrible. It was really bad. They missed everything that made the original good and just paid lip service to a lot of the bad jokes. things like that. Yeah, the reboot movie, it fell flat on a lot of those kind of jokes. Na 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 na. Pow, Pam, Pacha, Biff. Biff was always my favorite. And was it Julie Newmar played Catwoman? Meow. One of my early TV-related crushes, I suppose. And who could blame me? Yes, Emil. I'm gonna have to figure out the pronunciation of that. Emil will have to have a friend that he can go to, a colleague. He's going to, yes, because he is going to have to bypass corporate and whistle blow, side publish. I mean, yeah, and he's not going to publish in the traditional scientific sense, like he's not publishing in a journal here. He's just going public with the research at that point. Publishing would involve peer review and generally replication studies. I mean, publishing takes years. With something like this, it would take years because the research would take a long time to replicate, and it would need to be, someone would need to do a replication study. Well, I guess not for the initial publication. Certain elements would be tested, I suppose. I'm not actually sure how. I'm not sure how publication would work in biochemistry in that regard. Guess I should find that out. All right. Things to research, longevity, science. Biochemistry. Eartha Kitt, yes, she did. And it might be Eartha Kitt that I'm thinking of as well, because I would have probably watched mostly older episodes. I wasn't around in 1966. Oh. Okay. So I've got things to... Yeah. I legit feel a bit silly sitting here in front of a dual screen setup with the live stream going and the camera and the glowy keyboard and all the tech and stuff, and I'm just writing stuff on a piece of paper to plan, but it works for me. It does actually helps me think better, more organically, perhaps. Okay, so his response appeals the decision. And then there's be some meetings. And gets nowhere. Well, I'm nothing if not a creature of habit, Part of the problem for me, like if I were to plan here, if I were to plan along in here and just like put ideas down and write notes in the like this scene, what do I want to have happen? I have to be a little too specific, more specific than I want to be right now. I like to sort of circle in on the point a little bit more. Which, I mean, I suppose I could probably do it up here as well, but it's all good. You know what? I'm going to try something new. I'm going to try planning here. Okay, so I'm going to call this, move that over there, there, bring my keyboard back down here. Mostly I just want to use my keyboard because I like typing. I like typing on it. So this is the setup. This is the response. Okay, and we're going to duplicate that. This is the attack. I think I would know this by now, but I guess I haven't used it enough. Or not enough recently. That's the resolution where he... So, and I'm going by memory here. I do plan to reread Story Engineering probably this week if I can squeeze the time together. The setup is sort of all the stuff that leads up to the first plot point, which is the realization that the character has about what he's facing. Kind of a partial realization. It sets up the stakes. It gives the reader the background information. It's all that stuff, the setting the scene and that kind of thing that happens. The response is the protagonist's first attempt to solve the problem. It's doomed to fail. The attack, or the response can also be, the problem beating the tar out of the protagonist, which is quite often the case. And in this story, I think that's likely to be the case. He's going to get nowhere with his attempts to get through the publication approval process. And then the midpoint shift is where the protagonist realizes sort of the full scope of the problem. He realizes what actually is going on. In that case, he's going to intercept or something, an email. Maybe he'll be accidentally CC'd into an email talking about what to do about this Emil problem, and it won't go away, and they're going to have to discredit him or something. Just in case he goes public. And paint him as a whack job. Oh, yeah, I like that. Paint him as a whack job. A nutter. Okay, so an attack is when he goes full on into the problem, fails again, but fails better this time, and then the resolution is sort of how he ending up, whether he's successful or not. I mean, it's basically the hero's quest, but it's the hero's quest sort of. It's a structural diagram of the hero's quest, one that you could build a hero with, build a story with. He calls it story engineering for a reason, and I do tend to align with that sort of mindset if I'm looking at myself openly. And yeah, I realize that it's not for everybody. But okay, so this attack and resolution, we've got scene. Okay. So what are the things that I wanted to do here? Okay. Makes the breakthrough. Okay. Now I don't want the breakthrough thing to be that sort of that movie, like swirling a test tube and it changes color and it's true, because that's not science. That's not how science ever works, really. Okay. And it would be a whole team because nobody does science by themselves. Not really, not anymore. Hmm. Okay. There we go. I love this keyboard. Oh, it just feels so good. Okay. Okay, discussing with his wife. I should figure out keyboard shortcuts for adding new scenes and things in Scrivener. Ugh. You know what? Okay, I'll wife. Lack of response. Okay, now submitting a request to publish. I'm also going to have to, not for this story, I guess. I guess I don't need. I installed Eon Timeline again, version 2. There's a version 3 available, but it's like $68, and so I didn't buy it yet. I get a discount because I own version 2, which would make it about $45. I probably will buy version 3 at some point because I do plan to use Eon Timeline. But maybe I don't need it for this story. I was thinking that I did because I wanted to make sure I had events happening at the same times, but I don't at the moment have that many crossover events. There's really just the bombing that intersects. So the connection between the three different stories is more subtle than that. Initially, I had this idea that two characters bumping into each other in the hallway that don't otherwise know each other or interact, and that kind of goofball, you know, movie trope, I guess. Um, Ed Norton seeing Brad Pitt out of the corner of his eye, that kind of. It's the second Fight Club reference I've made today. Huh. Um, but yeah, that's not how it's going to go. So I don't really need. It doesn't seem like that's how it's going to go. So I don't need timeline functionality at the moment. So maybe I'll not do that. But at some point, I want to sit down and actually really learn the program and how it works. But let me very quickly. where are we here? So, okay, so I can move it up, I can move it down. Ah, okay, so control and the arrow keys does that. I can split things. Yeah, all right. Documents, files. Add new text. Control N, huh? Really? Okay, let's try that. Hey, it works. New folder is Control Shift N, so that's good to know. Okay, Control N. That's much easier then. That's the one I wanted. Oh. So. I see a lot of new faces today. That means some of you have been ignoring the first rule of Fight Club. Something like that. The first rule of Writer Club is write, you lazy monkey. Write. Okay. Name. Oh, what's going on here? Go and so, and I'm thinking that he's probably the corporate, the people who authorize his request for publication or request to publish are probably just ignoring it, hoping he'll go away, and then he starts pushing. So they have to push back. Request denied. Okay, there we go. And that is the first plot point. Response. Yeah, shake. Shock and dismay. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to have him, he works on the theoretical, on the pure research side. He's not, that. Okay. Back home with the whiff. Um, it's a bit. Okay, I need stakes, because if it's just, if they're us, if they're a couple of professionals with no kids, money in the bank, solid income, he's just got a huge bonus, way bigger than it probably should have been, which is the hush money. Really, there's no quandary here. The decision is clear. All right, to hell with them. I'm publishing. If they can fire me. They could sue me. I suppose. Yeah, I suppose the lawsuit. Impossible stakes. Lawsuit. Firing. I'm thinking maybe I should have them expecting a baby, which raises the stakes. He needs to keep the job. He can't afford a lawsuit. No, I don't want. He never even thought of that as a possibility. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, I don't think that a conspiracy to murder your lead research scientist is very realistic, is it? I don't. Yeah, I don't want to go full John Grisham on this. It's not a thriller. It's not a thriller, and I don't really want to make it a thriller. I think that pulls the focus in the wrong direction, in a direction I'm not looking to go. Yeah, yeah. How did I know that you were going to cheer for a murder, or not cheer for a murder, but pull for a murder? Yeah, yeah. I just picture you sitting there. I don't murder, murder, murder. Go on the internet. They said you meet the nicest people. No, I don't. I don't really. I don't think that that's where I want to go. I think there will be a threat. I think it'll be sort of unspecific, some sort of nebulous. It's kind of like, a nice place you got here. It'd be a shame if something was to happen to it. Something like that. Um, Nobody, in a real world situation. I do want to make it as realistic as possible. In a real situation, nobody threatening someone in this kind of a situation would be specific. They say, if you don't do this, we're gonna cut you. We're gonna kill your wife. I mean, nobody's gonna say that. So, yeah, I think the threat will probably be unspecified. So the response, I got to remember this is meant to be around 20,000 words, not 60. So, no, the Italian mafia is not going to kill somebody. The final scene of this story is him packing up his office. I mean, that's in my head already. He's packing up his desk. He's resigned before they could fire him, or he's been fired. But no, if he was fired, there would be security and all that stuff. So no, he's resigned before they can fire him, having realized that he can't, in good conscience, work for an organization that operates the way they do. So that is there. That's the last little. That's where we leave Emil. All right, so okay, and he accidentally gets. Oh, let's do this. There's somebody BCC'd. I know there shouldn't really be an apostrophe there, but I suppose actually I could do it that. No, that reads better. No, he's cleaning out his desk when there's an explosion at the gate. Just with the D? Yeah, I guess that makes... it all looks wrong to me anyway. I think technically if you were to do that, it should probably be like that. I'm going to go like that. It's not staying there for very long anyway. As soon as I start writing this scene, I'm going to get rid of that. But that's just sort of so I know what's going to happen. No, he doesn't die. He just looks up and sees, the gates are broken down. There's a burning van and a lot of people screaming. The van gets nowhere near the buildings. That's sort of the cherry on top is the fact that the suicide bomber guy who is furious with the world and clinically depressed. I mean, like horribly depressed and suicidal, and wants to take everyone out with him. Actually, doesn't really kill anybody that he wants to kill. He fails horribly at everything. That's sort of the. I'm not a Russian author, I promise. But yeah. Well, I mean, I can't really have the guy who drives a van into a crowd of people and then blows himself up succeed at his goal. That would be the wrong message to send to the kids. Anyway, yeah, we're talking about a major corporation involved in biomedical research and pharmaceutical production. There's no way you're getting anywhere near a building with a van like that. It's just not going to happen. really, really solid security. I can see he accidentally gets BCC'd. Group email discussing what to do about the Van Eyck problem. Is that his name? Is that how I spelled his name? Van Dyke, not Van Eyck. Eh. A Namikaze attack? Okay. The Van Dyke problem. Okay. All right, and then that is the midpoint shift, that email. All right, midpoint shift. Just for my own sort of reference here. Then he goes on the attack. Aha. But that's going to have to wait for a few minutes because I am out of coffee. Must go get coffee. Just drinking dregs. All right. I guess chat amongst yourselves. I'll be back in a moment. Oh. And I'm back. Oh. All right. Good night, female writer. Sleep well. Good night, female writer. Good work. Sleep well. I'll most likely kill you in the morning. Alright, so... attack... So what's he going to do about this? That's the question. Yeah. What is he going to do about this? That's... Something with the old, hey, Nini! Something about just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they aren't out to get you. That's a cute little chibi hello. Hello! Oh, Nini, I was going to ask you, are you familiar at all with Pocket FM? Is that a big, huge deal that everyone knows about in India? Yeah, they do. It's audiobooks, I think, mostly. Streaming audiobooks. Apparently, it's the biggest audiobook streaming service in India. I don't know how big that is, but... I was just hired the other day to narrate an audiobook for them. So I was curious how well known they are. That's what I thought. They seem a bit shady on the the business practices side. I did a quick online search for them, and there's a lot of complaints about their customer service and things like that. And then I asked the lady who hired me about the author's name because they wanted it produced to Audible standards, ACX standards, which includes certain files like the opening credits, closing credits, retail audio sample, things like that. So I needed author's name for the opening and closing credits because ACX requires an author's name and a narrator's name. And I was told, oh, we don't use the author's name. Like, oh, okay. So, yeah. At any rate, yeah, they're paying me my standard rate, which is nice. The story itself is, well, I probably shouldn't talk too much about client work, but the story is interesting. It was obviously written by a non-native English speaker, but oh, Pocket FM has radio channels as well. Okay, yeah. I was just kind of idly wondering about it a little bit and realized I know somebody who lives in India. Hey. So you missed out on almost 2 hours of me working on this new story. Completely different genre as well. I mean, it's literary fiction with a sci-fi taste. A touch of sci-fi. And I'm trying to plot out the first of 3 stories that are part of the larger story. So, yeah. And I don't speak Hindi. They've hired me to narrate in English, so I assume they're either branching out into other markets that speak English more, or they're adding English language audiobooks to their Indian offerings. So, yeah, it's a new story. I don't really have an elevator pitch length summary of it yet. The synopsis I do have is about a page and a half long, about a page long, I guess, for the synopsis. And I've already read it aloud on the stream, so basically the setup is that the premise is that scientists have solved the puzzle of aging, resulting in an indefinite human lifespan, effectively. Barring accident or the odd disease that's still around, people can live as long as they want. Which comes into play because most religions say that taking your own life or ending your own life is a sin. It's an evil. But if you live forever, effectively, other than having an accident, and you grow tired of life, what can you do, right? It creates another problem, as we'll see. So there's three separate novellas that are connected in setting and a few other ways. The first one deals with the scientist who led the research project to develop this scientific breakthrough, and his struggle with trying to publish his results and not being allowed to, and then deciding whether to go public anyway or not. And that's his big moral quandary. Not really a moral quandary in the sense that he's not sure what to do, more of a quandary in the sense that he's not sure he can handle the consequences of doing what he knows he should do. But he completely misses the actual moral issue or the actual ethical issue. He assumes that everybody in the world would want to live forever if they had the choice, not realizing that a lot of people wouldn't. Yeah, it's... So the scientist's story, I'm sort of halfway through plotting out now. Part 2 is the story of a young university student from a very devout Christian background. Damir Kumar is his name. And he is struggling with the conflict. He's a biochemistry student. He interned at the same lab, although the two characters never interact. But after the scientist goes public with his research, Damir is pressured by his faith community to quit his internship, and is currently being pressured by the same group to change his area of study. They're saying that, bioscience is evil, and, aging and death and the human lifespan are God's will, and who are we to meddle and play God, and the standard religious arguments against science, more or less. But his conflict is that he can't see this development as anything but a good thing, really. If we can effectively eliminate, like the idea of the infinite lifespan also includes the idea of infinite youth and health. If we've cured aging, that means we don't get old. We don't get any of those age-related diseases and infirmities, no arthritis, no osteoporosis, no dementia, none of those things that are associated with aging. And if we can effectively eliminate all human suffering, then we're obligated to do so ethically, morally. We're obligated to do so in his mind. And yet his faith community, the people he trusts, the people that he's grown up with, the people that make up his world, are telling him that's not the case. And so he's got that conflict. And he does quit his internship. He hasn't quite given up on bioscience yet. But he is under a lot of pressure, and he's struggling with it. And then his fiancée talks him into going with her to a protest outside the lab that he once interned at. And they're there in the crowd, and then some guy drives a van through the crowd into the gates and then blows up the van, killing himself and a bunch of people, including the fiancée, who gets killed, and Damir is seriously injured. So that's sort of the general outline of the plot for part 2. And part 3 follows our friend Marcus Waterman, I believe. I'm trying to get their names straight in my head. Yeah, Marcus Waterman, who is a manual laborer. He does manual labor in the construction industry. And he's in his late middle age, maybe 55 years old. He's recently lost his wife to cancer, and he lives a very unsatisfying life, basically, even to himself. Every day he gets up at dawn, more or less, goes to work all day, hauling materials around a building site. He comes home, eats a microwave dinner, pounds a couple of beers while watching TV until bed. That's every day. On the weekends, he either stays home and watches more TV, or he might go fishing or something. But he doesn't have any real friends. He doesn't have very many friends, and he has no close friends. He's isolated and alone. And when he thinks about this new science breakthrough development thing that everyone's talking about, it's all over the news, because this is after Emil has gone public with his research. All he can think is that if this had come out a year or two earlier, his wife would still be alive, right? And he's also facing the prospect of no end to his daily grind. He's not an intellectual. He doesn't live in his head much. He's not a creative person. He doesn't make things. He doesn't have hobbies, really. He's not interested in any of that. He hasn't read a book since high school, which he barely finished. This is just not who he is. He's a very concrete, very physical, rooted in the physical world kind of guy. And at the moment, he's very, very sad and very, very angry with the world. So the idea that now he's expected to live forever. The religious nut jobs will tell you can't kill yourself. And now science is telling you can't even die at the end of your lifespan. Like, there is no end. It's just what he's living forever. Yeah. So if he thinks to himself, if his wife were still alive, maybe it would be tolerable, at least. But she's not. So he steals a van from work and fills it full of demolition explosives and heads off to a protest he heard about outside the lab that made his life a living hell. So that's the three stories and how they connect. Yeah, complicated and not in a style or a genre I'm accustomed to writing in. So challenges all around. I'm warming up to it more than I was at the beginning of today. This morning when I started, I was missing Frank an awful lot because I know Frank. I'm comfortable with Frank, even though I wasn't really doing Frank justice yet. Yeah, it's always an uphill climb breaking in a new story in your mind and kind of figuring out where the nooks and the crannies are and occupying that space. Frank will come back. I've got to do this one first, though. I've got deadlines for this one, so the other one I'm my own boss, but this one I got other people involved, so. Frank is still there in our hearts, silent author. Oh, right. A bit dark, aren't you? It's a bit dark. All right. All right. Okay. I always have stupid names for my scenes. Yeah? Born in the dark, huh? I was born in a hospital. Probably not a very good one, but I was born in a hospital. So, does he tell his wife about... Now, should I conveniently make his wife a journalist? That would make it easier for him to go public, I suppose. I keep wanting to call it technology, but it's not technology. This. Hmm. Well, but it's not. It's the thing is, it's not technology yet. Technology is science that's been applied. This hasn't been applied to anything yet. It's just the knowledge of how aging works and what we can do to. I guess, yeah, yeah. I'm trying to draw a distinction between scientific knowledge and technology. Technology would be like a device that rejuvenates your cells or something. All right. All right. So, back at the ranch. So, this is secret writer tip number one for today. If you're not sure how something's going to happen, I just realized that that's like illegible. If you're watching this on a phone or something, there's no way you're going to be able to read that. I should have zoomed in a bit. Sorry about that. Um, I guess you still can't really see those unless you squint hard, but make it a bit, that's probably adequate. If you don't know how something's going to happen, just do something like this. Find a clever way for him to get around that. Writers are very good at putting problems off until later. Okay. Okay. And then That's sort of kind of the second plot point. Okay, well, let's fill in some of the bits that I know already. In the last bit, I kind of want to have his getting the research and sending it to somebody to make public. I kind of want that to be in the last part of the... no. Okay, so we're going to have... He's going to try and fail to do that. There we go. That's too flippant a title. So I'm trying to think in terms of pacing here. I've got a lot of scenes in the first two parts, and those will likely move a bit slowly. Well, certainly slowly in comparison to the second two parts, the final two parts, which seem to be quite fast paced, and I'm not sure if that's on purpose or not. Going full Mr. Robot here. Okay. No. All right. Mm. Do 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 do. Okay. And okay, so one thing I'm realizing as I sort of sketch out the shape of this is that most of the events in the other two sections are going to have to happen over the course of like a day or two, a couple of days, because the time between Emil going public and him cleaning out his desk is going to be measured in probably realistically measured in hours, not in weeks or months. Certainly, I think I might be able to give him a couple of days. Uh, mm. Hey, look at me! I'm touch typing. Haha. Not very well though. Okay, Mission Possible. Hmm. Do tell. What character are you developing? What does Themis do? What's the what position does Themis occupy in your story? There we go. That seems to be a common trend. I'm I'm teasing you a little bit, but I'm honestly kind of fond of stories where everybody is an anti-hero. That was one of the aspects of Game of Thrones that I quite enjoyed, was that nobody was a hero. There were no good guys. Just a bunch of guys. Alright, how does he go public? Oh. And after I stop writing on this for today, I have to go hop on the elliptical and do a cardio workout. I've been trying to do that every day. We got an elliptical a few days ago. It's our Christmas present to ourselves, my wife and I. And I've been using it daily. I think 10 to 12 minutes is the most I can handle on there yet, but we'll build up to a healthier me, I think. I checked, and my ebook reader will fit on the little clippy thing. The holder that's built into it barely fits, but it fits. It only fits sideways, but it fits. So I can actually, in theory, in particular, once I get in slightly better shape than I'm in now, and I can go at a light to moderate pace for a long time, which I still can't really do. Once I get that happening, I can stick my ebook reader in there and read while I elliptic, which will be nice. So, okay, one last thing to do. Okay. Sounds like an interesting character. What day of the week is it today? It is Thursday. I'm just thinking to myself, I had scheduled myself to do probably about 3 hours of voice recording today. But after 2.5 hours of streaming, I don't know if I've got the vocal cords for it. I'd have to move something to tomorrow. All right, how's he going to go public? I wonder. Okay. I don't know that I don't think they have, but I think they probably also would. In a case like this. I'm mean. Sorry, I'm just had a little, somebody reacted to a comment I made on a Facebook post in the Scrivener users group. Somebody asked, what's the most important thing for a newbie to know about Scrivener? What's the most important thing for a new user to learn? And I said, probably where to find the manual and the tutorial videos, because nobody seems to use either of them, given the questions that people ask. And a lot of people have thumbed that up and hearted it and whatever. Too sarcastic for my own good sometimes, but... The vast majority of questions in the Scrivener users group are from people who don't understand how files and folders work on their computer. I don't know where it saved my project. My project isn't there anymore. My Mac updated itself and now my project is gone. What? It's not how anything works. What did you do? Ah. Yeah, raw, not Romance Writers of America. All raw data through WikiLeaks. Okay, there we go. All right. Yeah, I think I'm going to call that a day on this. That's quite a lot of stuff done today, actually. I'm happy with that. I've got the whole thing figured out. For now, subject to change without notice. Yeah. I think I am going to try and track down my copy of Story Engineering and give it another read through. Maybe I'll do that this evening. Yeah, okay. Well, I guess Silent Author is the only one who's still here. Painfulest. Painfulest, huh? Painfulest, are you a bot? I think you're a bot. Probably a bot. Yeah. Painfulest. No? Not showing up on the list of common bots. So I guess that's something. Dinneretta. I think I looked up Dinneretta before. No? Maybe not. You're not showing up. I know you're here. I know you're here. I'm just wondering what the other two is. But anyway, thanks for coming. It's nice chatting and seeing you again. Thanks to everyone else who showed up in the chat as well this morning, including my mom. That was a bit of a surprise. If you're watching this on VOD if you're watching this on VOD, don't forget to follow the channel so you know when we go live and you can jump in the chat as well. And if you're watching on YouTube, do the dingle dangles down there and make sure you don't miss future videos. Still, there's only 3 subscribers to the YouTube channel as of right now, and I think 2 of them are me. So, um, I get it. It's not for everybody, but if you're interested in this sort of thing, if you've enjoyed watching the stream after the fact, then yeah, don't forget to subscribe and bell it up so that you know when the videos go live, which is usually 15, 20 minutes after the stream ends. So yeah, I will be back in 2 days' time, Friday evening in North America. It's my Saturday morning. Now, that didn't work very well last week for a few reasons. One, my family's around and sort of free on the weekends, or more free. My son's home, he's not at school, so the house is a bit more hectic and chaotic. It is what it is. The other thing is that I suspect, because my neighbors are all likely home too, instead of being at work, that the internet is a lot slower on a Saturday morning than it is on a Wednesday morning, for example. They're going to have only one trunk line shared between all of the buildings coming into the apartment complex, and then my internet in my building is shared between my neighbors to that. The more people using the internet from my apartment complex, the slower it's likely to work. Even though I pay for, a lot of bandwidth. So those two things together, I'm thinking that next week I suppose I could change it this week too. Don't have to stick to that. Actually, I think I might do that. I might just say I'm going to stream tomorrow and not Saturday. I'll change my schedule. And then next week it'll be Monday, Wednesday, Friday evenings ongoing. North American time. That would be Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday evenings. North American time. That's my Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings. Just because it works better, works better for my schedule and likely works better for internet connectivity purposes as well. So, yes, I am going to do that. So I will stream tomorrow for a couple hours anyway, and possibly start writing on this story. I'm going to try and squeeze aside some time to polish up my outline a bit and make some decisions about the character and invent some other characters and read that story engineering book again, or at least skim it and remind myself what the tentpole moments are. That's what he calls them. The main things that hold up the tent, make the story look like a tent instead of a pile of fabric on the ground. The structural elements. Every time I think of that, I think of there's an episode of The Simpsons where they do the remake each other's house thing. The Simpsons renovate the Flanders' house. And Rod or Todd, I can never remember which one is which, but one of them goes to tear a poster off the wall that Bart's put up there of of Krusty the Clown, I think it is. And he says, "Oh, I don't like that clown." He goes to pull off the poster, and Bart says, "Oh, I wouldn't do that if I were you. That's a structural poster." He pulls the poster off, and the whole house falls down. Anyway, as I'm recapping ancient cartoon history. So yeah, I'll stream tomorrow and not the day after. I think that's probably the best option. I'm confident that the connectivity issues from last week on Saturday were because it was Saturday and everyone was using the internet in my Huayuan, which is Chinese for apartment complex, or community, I guess. It's not apartment complex in the sense of like a building full of apartments. It's 10 buildings. Actually, well, it's an extended Huayuan. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 compounds, each with 10 to 15 buildings, possibly 20 buildings. So yeah, anyway, I'm pretty sure that this section was using up all the internets, and that's why I couldn't get a good connection, and I don't want to deal with that again. So we'll head that off at the pass. I'll stream tomorrow, not the day after. And tomorrow, hopefully, I'll have a slightly clearer idea of where I want to go and how I want to get there. And then I can start traveling. Typey, 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 typey. All right. Thanks for joining. See you tomorrow.